Are you ready to proceed?
I'm ready to proceed.
My names are Harry Paul Francis Sambou.
Harry Paul Francis Sambou.
I was born in Bathurst, now Banjul, on the 10th of March 1953.
March 1953.
I had my primary education St. Joseph's Primary School in Basse, then St. George's.
St. George's Basse, then St. George's.
From 1959, if I'm not mistaken.
Born in 1959.
And then in 1962, I was moved to Fulabantang St. Teresa's boarding school.
So 1962, Madam St. Teresa's boarding school in Fulabantang, Central River Region.
From where I sat to the common entrance examinations.
Common entrance.
And then when I passed, I went to St. Augustine's High School in Banjul.
St. Augustine's Banjul High School.
From 1965 to 72.
1965 to 1972.
In 1973, in June, I got a job as an accounts clerk at the then Elder Dempster Department Agency.
1973, I'm the account clerk.
And
in
1975, I obtained the Gambia government-sponsored scholarship to the Soviet Union, to the then Soviet Union. And I proceeded to the Soviet Union to pursue a master's degree in Soviet jurisprudence.
Master's degree
with a specialty in criminalistics. Ways and means of fighting and preventing crime.
Harry Sambou's story reflects the reality for many individuals from Africa during that time. Scholarships to study abroad, regardless of the country or its political ideology, were often seen as a rare opportunity to escape challenging circumstances and pursue education. For many, the destination or the ideological leanings of the host country were secondary to the chance of improving their lives and gaining valuable knowledge and skills. In such cases, practical considerations outweighed any ideological alignment, as survival and progress were the primary motivations. Harry's journey and choices are a testament to the resilience and determination of those who sought better opportunities despite the complexities of global politics.
In 1981, I completed my course in the Soviet Union and came back home.
1981, Soviet Union,
I got a job in government as a senior social worker at the Department of Social Welfare.
From
1983 to 86.
1983
In 1986, I was transferred and redesignated to the Office of the President.
1986, Office of the President.
As a senior security officer, I think. In the then National Security Service.
National Security Service.
From that time to 88, I was posted back to social welfare as a probation officer.
1988, social welfare
I also moved over to the Ministry of Justice, Aegis Chambers, as a personnel officer. And then I also got a scholarship to go to the Forobe College to do a degree in law, but I abandoned the course and came back home
gannaaw loolu nag amaat naa itamit beneen ndimbali payam liggéey pour nag mu ma dal di dem def bachelor ci Fourébé collège bi nekkee ci Sierra Leone mu jéegi na ma bàyyi ko ñibbisi.
I got back into the system.
ma delluwaat ci liggéey ba.
As an assistant secretary in the Ministry of Works.
ma nekk assistant secretary ci ministry bi saytu wàlli liggéey bi.
And that's 92 I think to 94.
li ko daggee 92 jëmbe 94.
And in 94 I was again transferred and redesignated as Director of Finance and Administration to the newly created National Intelligence Agency.
ci 94 nag ci lañ ma dolli yóbbuwaat ci buntu bi nga xam ne mooy saytu wàlli koppar gi ci buntu liggéeykaay bi ñu sos es mooy National Intelligence Agency NIA.
There I stayed for
foofu laa nekk ba
another 3-4 years, and in 1997 I traveled.
1997.
Mr. Sambou,
yes.
As Director of Administration and Finance at the NIA, you are de facto number 2 at the NIA at the time, correct?
Correct.
Wow.
And in that position, you reported only to the Director General.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, Mr. Sambou, perhaps you should allow the interpreters to speak before you respond to my questions.
Thank you, sir.
And apart from the Director General, you were the most senior person at the NIA at that time, 1994 to 1997, correct?
1994 to 1997, ludut kinga hamna moy Director General bi yow mi yow la fa sa mahama gënona ko we.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, proceed please and continue about the description of the positions you held.
Wa egalel nga wax ñu place nga xamne mom nga yoré won.
In 1997,
ci atum 1997,
I proceeded to the United Kingdom.
ci la dem United Kingdom
to pursue another master's degree course.
ci xentu nak lu jëm ci wàlli njàngam ma xama master's degree
in management development.
ci wàlli ni nga xamé dool nañuy toppatoo lépp lu jëm ci wàlli liggéey.
In 1998, I came back home.
ci atum 1998 ma ñibbisi waat.
And was transferred and redesignated to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
ci lañ ma dal di toxal nag ci ministry bi nga xam ne moo saytu wàlli doxalin bi réewi Gambia ci biti.
And I was posted to the Gambia High Commission in Lagos as Deputy Head of Mission.
ci lañ ma yóbbu nag ca Gambia High Commission bi nekkee ca réewi Nigeria fu ñu xamee Lagos nga xam ne maa topp nag ci kilifa ga ñu fa teg.
After 2 years, in 2000, I was recalled.
gannaaw ñaari at ci atum 2000.
And I came back home.
ci lañ ma oo ma ñibbisi waat.
And I was posted to the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare.
ci lañ ma yóbbu nag ci ministre bi saytu wàlli wér garam geeg nekk ni nit ñi.
As Deputy Permanent Secretary.
ma nekk fa nag di maqaamam Deputy Permanent Secretary.
In 2002.
ci atum 2002.
I was terminated.
ñu dal di ma dàq.
Without reason.
te amul nag benn luñ ma ci tegal ne looloo tax.
And I went home.
ma dem ñibbi.
I stayed for up to 2004.
ma toog fa nag ba atum 2004.
And I got a job at the Independent Electoral Commission as Director of Operations.
ma am liggéey ci buntu liggéeykaay bi saytu mbiri wote ak kontem carte yi réew mi di Independent Electoral Commission ma nekk borom kër gi saytu wàlli doxalini bi liggéey boobu Director of Operations.
In March 2006.
ci weeri March atum 2006.
I was again absorbed into the system.
ci lañ ma dal di delloowaat ci liggéey ba.
And appointed acting Director General of the National Intelligence Agency.
ñu fal ma nag di kilifa gi nga xam ne nii moo topp ki jiite ci buntu liggéeykaay National Intelligence Agency.
8 months, I think, into that job.
juróom-ñetti weer ci liggéey boobu.
I was again terminated.
ñu dal di ma dàqaat.
Without reason.
te waxuñ ma dal lan moo tax.
And I went home.
ma dolli ñibbi.
Till June 2009.
Be very June atum 2009.
Again, I was recalled.
Ñu daldi ma woowaat.
Offered a contract.
Ñu jox ma contract liggéey.
And appointed permanent secretary number 1 at the office of the president.
Ñu def ma permanent secretary number 1 ci office ci president bi.
That's a very high position, you would admit.
Lolu mahama bu for la de.
I would admit now, I didn't know what it was when I was going.
Even then, it would have been the highest permanent secretary position, next to the Secretary General.
Ca jamono boba sax moy won mahama bi gëna fort ci mahama permanent secretary ndax ya topon ci Secretary General bi.
Futon ci Secretary General. Why ci permanent secretary yep kon ka mom won permanent secretary office president kagn mom mo ci gëna ko top ci Secretary General. So the point I'm trying to make is being permanent secretary number 1 for office of the president, that would make you one of the most senior permanent secretary next to the Secretary General. Would you agree?
Lima wax moy su fekkee ne def nañ la permanent secretary number 1 bon yow yaa gën a kowe ci mahama permanent secretary tegu rek ci kaw ki nga xam ne mooy Secretary General bi.
That was next to the secretary to cabinet.
Loolu moo toppoon ci ki nga xam ne nii mooy secretary to the cabinet.
Oftentimes, secretary to cabinet and Secretary General is one and the same person. But when you separate them, perhaps yes.
Léegi li ci ëpp nag Secretary General Secretary cabinet yi benn la daan doon waaye comme xaajale nga ko ba tey noonu la.
So, but you would nonetheless accept that it was a very high position.
It was indeed.
Léegi di nga nangu ne daal place bu foor la woon.
Proceed, please. What happened after that?
Egalil lu xew gannaaw loolu.
In October of the same year, 2009,
ci weeru October ci benn at mi 2009.
I was posted to the Ministry of Defense as permanent secretary.
Ci lañ ma daldi yóbbu ci ministry bi saytu wàlli kaaraange gi ne permanent secretary.
That's where I stayed for 3 years, I think.
Fa laa nekk nag ba ñetti at su ma fàttale ko.
After a second stint on contract as permanent secretary.
Boobu tamit ci contract ñaareel bi di ci permanent secretary nekk permanent secretary.
Halfway into the second contract.
Genn wàll ci ñaareeli contract bi.
I was dismissed.
Ñu daldi ma dàq.
Again.
Halfway into the 2-year contract of the second contract.
Genn wàll ci ñaareeli at bi ci ñaareeli contract bi.
I got dismissed.
Ñu dàq ma.
Yet
on
again.
Contract.
Yep, ci contract.
Yes. Forced dismissal on contract, but not forced dismissal from your engagement or employment with Gambia government. That would have been your third dismissal from Gambia government.
Lead counsel, if you would allow me to explain.
Lead counsel,
a dismissal and termination are different.
Dismissal and termination,
it has subtle legal differences in terms of the benefits. But let's just say, in general parlance, your contract, your engagement with government was ended.
Removal.
You were removed for the third time.
For the third time.
And that's the point I was trying to make.
Lead counsel is very right.
Lead counsel.
And what happened after that?
I had to leave the country surreptitiously. Surreptitiously.
Okay.
And sought political asylum in Senegal for fear of my life.
As
far as you know, was there any credible threat to your life?
Amoon na dara loo xam ne moom nga tiitoon ci sa wàlli dunda lu la doon xuppal daal ba nga xam ne doo ñemee toog fii.
Which warranted your surreptitious disappearance from this country
loo xam ne war naa waral sax nga yoddal di laxatu dem génn réew mi dem beneen réew
into exile
nga daw laxu ji beneen réew
in Senegal.
Senegal.
It council. My position was exceptional, sort of, in the sense that I did not have a minister.
Suma makama nak nek na lo xamne dafa uti ndax jamono bobu awma minister.
Minister of
as permanent secretary for which ministry?
Ministry of Defense.
For Ministry of Defense.
Ministry of Defense.
Minister of Defense was...
There was, of course, a de facto minister at the time. Somebody who oversaw the Ministry of Defense, correct?
Amon na benen ministre bo xamne koku mo dan setlu mo dan tek loxo ci Ministry of Defense.
The de facto Minister of Defense was the President of the Republic.
Minister bobu non nga xamne na mo don baye xel nak lu jëm ci mbiri karange mo don President bu Republic bu Gambia.
So in essence, as permanent secretary, Ministry of Defense, you were dealing directly with Yaya Jammeh.
Bon mun nañu wax ne comme ka ya nekkon permanent secretary ci ron liggéey ka ministre bi saytu karange réew mi bon dafa melni yow dal ci ron Yaya Jammeh nga don liggéey.
Through the Secretary General.
Deug la jaarale ko nak ci ron Secretary General.
Okay. And your services were terminated.
Dismissed.
Yes. The termination here is not the term of art. This is just the general meaning of the word. You were removed, to use your word. You were removed. So, in all that, tell us why you perceived a threat to your safety and security.
Legi nak wax ñu lan mo tax dal oluwulo won ba tax nga daw dem laxu ji benen rew.
Working with Yaya Jammeh was one of the most challenging and difficult things.
Liggéey ak Yaya Jammeh mo nekkon li nga xamné mo gënon nekkal lu
experience in my life.
Ci li nga xamné ni dal jankwante nako ci suma dundu.
Yaya Jammeh read through every single line you wrote in the file.
Yaya Jammeh dafay bàyyi xel lépp loo xam ne nii dal dinañ ko bind ci file.
Full stop, comma, semicolon.
Full stop, comma, ak yeneen.
I believe he thought he...
Yeneen yu yana amu ci olof.
Semicolon.
Continue, please.
I believe he thought he knew better than anybody else.
Yaakaar naa moom dafa foy ne moo gën a xam kenn ñëpp.
In the English language.
Ci làkki angale.
Even with the help of my desktop spell checks.
Même si suma ni may sété ni ñuy bindé ci furi ci suma computer bi.
Two giant dictionaries, robots and advanced learners.
Ak kay ci dictionary bi nga xamné fa la ñuy sété baati anglais yi.
Complemented with a book of quotes.
Ak yenn yi nga xamné ni ñu ngi and ak ay léewu.
Didn't satisfy him.
Lool yépp du ko daan doy.
Yaya Jammeh also did not appreciate people taking initiatives in his place.
Momit du daan nek ko xamne dana daan doylo nit ñi ñuy doxal ay xalaat ci walam.
He took offense at those things.
Da fay jappé lolu togn.
And he personalized issues.
Daf dé momale bopam yenn mbiri.
Rather than concentrate on the details in the file.
Ni baye xel nak li nga xamne lu lañu bind ci file yi muy pour lu muy jëflanté.
He would reply on the folio sheet personal insults and very, very, very degrading language.
Dana tontu nak ci anam go xamne ni anam go xastu la ci li nga xamne ni moy file bo non su koy delo.
It would take a very patient and tolerant and mature, sober person to focus on the job and forget about those things so as to push the file and get the job done.
Nga nek ni ko xamne ni ku mot nga ko xamne ni tamen ku meuna muñ nga pour nga meuna continuer ak liggéey bobu.
For us to better understand the personality of Yaya Jammeh, I mean, you have worked with him extensively. You've worked in his government in the highest offices. NIA defense. You've been boss of NIA. That brings you into very close contact with him. You are head of Permanent Secretary Defense. Very close contact with him. You are also Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health and others. So you've worked with him extensively. Help us understand Yaya Jammeh. Let's decode him. Make us understand his personality.
Legi, pour ñu mëna xam Yaya Jammeh ban façon ngeen nit la xam nañ ne liggéey nga ci ronam ci anam yu ci bari liggéey nga NIA Permanent Secretary Defense nekkoon na sa boss nekk nga ko xam ne tamit jokkoo nga moom torop liggéey nga ci liggéey ka bi saytu wér gu yaram bi nekk fa Permanent Secretary am na place ma xama yu for yoo xam ne am nga ko ci ron Yaya Jammeh léegi soo ñu bëggee wax kan mooy Yaya Jammeh ak naka la mel naka la
Lead Counsel, I watched Dr. Sen.
Lead Counsel seetaan naa Dr. Sen muy wax lu jëm ci mbiri Yaya Jammeh ci ni nga xam ne noonu la ko jàngee ci mbiri xel.
And his analysis of Yaya Jammeh.
ak li nga xam ne ni loolu la sottandeku ci Yaya Jammeh.
He had many points correct.
am na fa fànn yu bëri yoo xam ne ni dëgg la fa am.
But unfortunately, he did not have personal contact.
waaye nag nekk koo xam ne
did not work with Yaya Jammeh.
daan am jokkoo ak Yaya Jammeh liggéeyu tey Yaya Jammeh.
That is why we putting this question to you. Tell us from a first-hand experience, first-hand personal knowledge of Yaya Jammeh.
moo tax nag yow mi gën a jokkoo moom ñu lay laaj yow lan nga xam yow ci sa bopp ci mbir Yaya Jammeh.
He was very temperamental.
nekkoon na koo xam ne ni ku yomba mer la.
A witness testified here.
am na seede bu fi wax fii ne.
I think it was Ibu Jaju.
foog naa Ibu Jaaju la.
I'm just plucking this from memory.
maa ngi xalaat rek.
And he said one of the Egyptian chefs that Yaya Jammeh had
wax na ne kenn ci ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi daan liggéey foofu ci wàññi Yaya Jammeh bi dëkk
described him as follows.
nii la waxoon ne noonu la Yaya mel.
Now happy, now angry.
mu ne léegi ci taxawaay bi mu mer ci taxawaay bi nga gis mu kontaan.
That is why I said, well, maybe the Egyptian did not know the exact English word to use.
moo tax ma ne maybe Egyptian boobu amut baati anglais bi nga xam ne moom la waroon a jëfoo.
But it was synonymous to temperamental.
waaye nag nekkoon na loo xam ne ku jégale ku yomba mer.
Added to that,
di ci yokk nag ne.
I would say he was schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic. Dafa am feebari boppa.
waaw. dafa am feebari xel.
feebari xel, waaw.
He was, I think he had pathological problems.
yaakaar naa daal dafa nekk koo xam ne dafa amoon feebari xel.
I don't want to be a psychologist.
bugguma nekk nag koo xam ne ni dafay natt xeli nit.
Somebody who would change in the next moment while you are sitting with him.
koo xam ne ni dafay wecceeku si saasi.
Change decisions or change his mind.
di wecci ay dogalam wala di wecci xelam.
You wouldn't know what to expect from him.
doo mën a xelaat lan ngay séntu ci moom.
So if he called you in his office, you sat down, you are taking notes, you're discussing.
su la ooyee office am ngay naa waxtaan yaa ngi bind.
Next minute.
yenn jamono yoo xam ne ni mu ngi muñ ci beneen minute bi rek.
And that affected his decision-making process.
loolu na nekk na loo xam ne ni lu gàllankooroon dogal yi nga xam ne moom la daan dogal.
You would go to him with the file. Instead of dealing with the file, he would derail and.
da ngaa yóbbu foofu file pour waxtaan ak yow ci li nga fa yóbbu mu xelam dem ci leneen.
And you would come down with the file not knowing what to do because there are time frames for certain things in the files.
bu ko defee nga wàcc ak file boobu noonu doo xam looy def ndax dafa am waxtu woo xam ne nii ci lañ war a jëflanteeg file boobu.
Wouldn't you call his attention to the issue at hand?
bu ko defee nag yow doo delloosiwaat xelam ci loolu nga xam ne moo la fa yóbbu.
You can only do that through the Secretary General.
loolu nag si Secretary General bi rek nga ko mën a defee.
But Mr. Sambou, here you are, very senior official in government, you sitting with the president to deal with an issue of national interest. You have to wait to go out and tell the Secretary General that we did not discuss this, it ought to have been discussed. Why couldn't you tell the president that, sir, this is what brought me here, let's deal with the matter?
waaye Mr Sambou yow yaa ngi nii amee maxaama bu kowe ñëw nga ci président bi pour waxtaana moom mbir moo xam ne itteel réew mi la bu fekkee ne li nga bëgg a amee ci moom ameewuloo ko ndax jar na ngay xaar ba demaat ci secrétaire général bi wax ko ne lii ak lii day laa bëggoon a waxtaana moom waaye mënuma koo amee ci moom lu tax yow ba nga jàkkaarloo moom rek nga ne ko saa ñu ne lii laa bëgg a ñu waxtaanee ngeen waxtaanee ko.
Lead counsel.
Yaya
Jammeh buur la woon.
Yaya Jammeh buur la woon.
daf doon def boppam ni buur.
Yaya Jammeh daf doon def boppam ni buur.
moo la oo nga dem uyu ji ko.
He is the one who called you and you answer to him.
mënuloo dem fekki ko nga ne ko dama la bëgg a gis.
You cannot go to him directly and tell him that you want to see him. dafa am fu mu koy jaarale.
If he also dismisses you, you go down. You find yourself in such a situation, you don't know what to do. And the SG might not even have the courage to go back and remind him. He would dismiss the SG just like you.
la daxee kenn du ñemee dem secretary general bi du dem sax pour jéem ko ko wax ndax moom it mën na cee topp.
People have testified here on that issue, in this like manner.
am na ñu fi teewal seen i seede di wax lu mel noonu.
So you wait.
We just want to understand, Yaya Jammeh, from your own perspective. You are the one working with him. We want to know what you went through, how you were dealing with him, so that we will better understand the decisions that were taken.
dañ bëgg a xam Yaya Jammeh bu baax a baax jaarale ko ci yow ni nga xam ne noonu nga daan jëflante moom naka nga daan defa moom ak naka la mel ci yow yow ci sa wàllu gis-gisi boppa lañ bëgg a xam Yaya Jammeh naka la meloon ci yow.
So that's why we ask this question.
moo tax ñu laaj la ko.
I understand.
Now dégg naa.
Personally, were you terrified of him, of Yaya Jammeh?
yow ci sa boppa yow mii ci sa boppa Yaya Jammeh danga ko ragaloon.
No.
déedéet.
Now emphatically say no.
danaa dëgëral ne déedéet.
You look at Yaya Jammeh depending on the mood he was in.
dangay seet Yaya Jammeh ci anam gi nga xam ne noonu la nekkee woon.
And you chose the right time to tell him what you felt.
nga seet na waxtu wi nga xam ne nii moom nga koy wax yow li nga xam ne loolu nga yëg ci moom.
If you did it at the wrong time, woe betide you.
bu koy fee nag bu fekkee ne wax nga ko ci jamono boo xam ne nii ute neexut xol bi neexut.
Woe betide you. coono gu bari mun na la ciy fekk.
da nga am tolof tolof.
But on the contrary, if you found him in a very good mood, you might move out of his office with your pockets very full.
léegi nag bu fekkee ne fekk nga ko nag si xol bu neex mën nga amaan nga génn ak poche yu fees.
You never know.
dara doo ci xam.
In a sense, what you're saying is that you have to calibrate. You have to judge his mood and decide how to deal with him at that particular moment.
Indeed.
mu ngi mel ni foog nga xalaat seet nga natta jamono jooju moom ci yan anam la nekk nga mun a jëflante moom ci anam yooyu.
But even at that, fear was always one underlying factor that was always there for you and possibly most public officers who dealt with him.
waaye nag terewut yéen ci seen bopp ak yeneen ñi nga xam ne ñoo daan liggéey te jëflante ak moom anam yi ñu daan jëflante moom yëpp dañ ko àndale woon ak ragal.
I will ask a rhetorical question, if you will allow me, lead counsel.
mu ne dana la laaj nag laajte boo xam ne nii bu dëgër la.
Would you fear somebody
ndax doo ragal nit koo xam ne.
who has a button
koo xam ne dafa am
on his right hand below his desk?
boo xam ne mu ngi amee ci ron taabulam bi ndeyjoor bi.
mu ngi fa am benn bouton.
Depending on his whims and caprices.
wéeru rek ci li nga xam ne nii mooy ay xalaatam.
ak lu ko neex.
Would press that button and call the soldiers in.
bu ko fee mu press button boobu rek o soldaar yi ñu dugga si.
And he would just say, take him away.
te dafay wax rek yóbbu leen ko.
Those soldiers, excuse me, with all due respect to them,
soldaar yooyu noonu ak cër bi ñu leen jox yëpp.
were like robots.
ñoom it dañ mel ni comme ay machine.
Yes sir, and that's all.
Yes sir rek te def nañ li mu wax.
In the car next time.
kenn nañ la.
Downstairs and off you go.
jal di
They
la
have
yóbbu.
only one direction.
dañu am benn place rek lañu lay jëmale.
Mile 2 prisons.
mooy mile 2 prison.
Otherwise known as.
ñu xamee ko beneen tur.
The hotel, the 5-star hotel.
5-star hotel.
You were in the system. You headed NIA. You headed defense. You were close to president. What did you understand that 5-star hotel to mean?
yow nekk nga ci liggéey bi jiite nga NIA di ka nga place bu fort ci wàlli kaaraange réew mi am nga maxama yu bari yoo xam ne yore nga ko fi yow 5-star hotel boobu ñu jël ko tuddee ko kaso bi naka nga ko gisee.
Council, I have traveled the world.
It Council tukki naa ci àdduna bi.
I have been to 5-star hotels.
Gis naa 5-star hotel ni muy mel.
I know what they are.
te xam naa ni mu mel.
Mile 2 prisons is nothing near a 1-star hotel.
Mile 2 prison nag jegewut sax 1-star hotel.
So, isn't it rhetorical, if I may, or is it a sarcastic description?
Sarcastic.
Of what a 5-star hotel is, reversing the luxury in a 5-star hotel to the horrors that you would find in Mile 2 prison.
ndax nekkul mbiri coxor ci ak wax ju ñaaw joo xam ne di nga jël rek du tolloo 5-star hotel ak ni moo mel ak bànneex beeg taranga bi nekk ci 5-star hotel nga jël ko di ko méngale ak kaso boo xam ne ay mbugal ak ay toroxtaande rek moo fa am.
Exactly so.
loolu la.
If I may.
How would you feel, or how did you feel then, as permanent secretary, having to go to Yaya Jammeh's office to discuss issues with him? Could you give us an understanding of how it felt?
naka nga daan yëg yow nga nekk permanent secretary war a dem toog office Yaya Jammeh pour waxtaan ak moom ay mbir nag loo daan yëg jamono jooju.
As you are on your way going to his office.
mel ni boo jógee ne yaa ngaa dem jublu ji nag office am loo dee yëg.
In my position as permanent secretary, I'm a technical advisor.
Suma maxama nag ni permanent secretary la nekk naa koo xam ne ku daan xelal la.
My job was to give him objective technical advice.
Suma liggéey moo doon di ko jox nag ay xalaat yu wér.
On issues raised.
ci fànn yi nga xam ne nii ñu ngi koy ekkati pour wax.
I go straight to him.
damay dem ci moom rek.
And tell him what is.
wax ko nag lan la.
It was up to him to accept what I said or not.
dafa des ci moom rek pour mu nangul ma ko wala déet.
You've described your job. My question is, how do you feel? Or how did you feel then when you had to go to Yaya Jammeh's office now and again? What was that feeling when you are up, carrying your file, going to Yaya Jammeh's office to discuss things with him?
Waaw loolu nga wax noonu mooy sa mbiri liggéey ni moo demee man li ma la laaj mooy yow bu waxtu jotee nag ba nga xam ne gàddu nga sa file war a dem nag ca Yaya Jammeh pour waxtaanee moom li nga xam ne moo nekk ci file bi boo jógee ba jéggi jublu ji ca Yaya Jammeh loo dee yëg.
I personally didn't feel anything.
suma bopp de du ma yëg dara.
Clean conscience.
dama de am xel bu rafet rek.
And with Yaya Jammeh, you look at him right in the eyes.
Yaya Jammeh da nga koy xool si bët.
Look at him right in the eyes and tell him what you feel.
nga wax ko nag li nga xam ne
Make sure that what you tell him is the fact, that is the technical objective answer.
na nekk nag li nga xam ne loolu ngeen koy wax mooy dëgg ji.
But wasn't it the case that each time you had to go there, you had to feel somewhat paranoid, not knowing what the consequences of your meeting would mean for you, for your own safety and for your own security?
Waaw ndax du dee nekk nag ne yow jamono boo jógee rek ne yaa ngaa dem ca Yaya Jammeh du nekk jamono joo xam ne yaa ngay xalaat ne man day xaw ma ci ban anam laa koo fekkee ak suñu waxtaan fan lay mujjee.
ak lang fay jëlee lu moo mel ci yow ndax dina doon lu baax pour yow ndax mun nga see mujjee sax dem kaso ga.
loolu kenn xamu ci dara danga dis sa bopp dénga sa bopp yàlla.
No one knows you. Leave yourself with God. And you enter with your file. Whatever you receive, that's yours.
But was it that bad that whenever you had to go in there, you think in terms of such terrible consequences, like lofa gobe garko, like anything can happen?
Ndax loolu nekkul mbir mu doy waar saa yoo jógee rek pour dem jàkkaarloo ak moom yaa ngi xalaat lan nga faa jëlee.
I think he enjoyed putting people on pressure and on their toes.
yaakaar naa ne daal daf dee bànneexu bu fekkee ne nag mu ngi teg nit ak notel.
So that they would fear him.
bu ko defee nag pour ñu mun koo ragal. bu ko defee ñu jébbalu ci ronam.
But wasn't that in fact the situation? Wasn't that the reason why we had a dictatorship?
Of course, yes.
ndax loolu nekkul ne moo taxoon ba ñu am koo xam ne mu ngi daan doxalee nguuri jaayam doole ci kaw nit ñi.
It was lead counsel.
loolu la woon lead counsel.
And wasn't it in fact the case that the public service generally from top to bottom were generally, not all, but generally terrified at Yaya Jammeh?
ndax loolu sax warta tax ba ñi nga xam ne ñoo daan liggéey ci nguur gi du ñëpp de waaye ñi ci ëpp yëpp dañu ragaloon Yaya Jammeh.
That is the characteristic of a dictator.
loolu nag moo nekk ne mooy jikkooy dictator.
Was that the characteristic of Yaya Jammeh?
ndax loolu mooy woon jikko Yaya Jammeh.
I think so.
loolu laa yaakaar de.
You told us about his minutes, the minutes that he would write. Were these minutes respectful? Were they technically sound, or were they just the rantings of a person who had no respect or regard for the people he was dealing with?
léegi boo leen yóbbuwaan seen file yooyu ba woon ko ci ron kayit yi nga xam ne moom lay binda yim fa daan binda ndax lu tegginu la wala lu jaadu la wala lu méngoo ak li nga xam ne moom la war a binda ak cëral boo xam ne cëral na ko li moo binda.
Not the least, lead counsel.
Do you want to give us examples? I see you taking out a file.
I would like to make some references if I find the document.
Please go ahead.
Please allow me. Lead counsel, I want to show you an example of what you are asking. That is the language President Jammeh used, former President Jammeh used to address some of us. Here is a minute that the Principal Assistant Secretary at the time sent through me to His Excellency.
Principal Secretary minute
and in reply he also wrote a minute. Despite the fact that he approved of what we requested to him, from him, he said, he wrote to me, PS, if you present any minute with such type to me, so you will regret it.
So indeed, minute
then he wrote NB, ST, stroke PS.
Hello. Let's go back let's take it back again and have a better interpretation.
Okay. Then he said, if you present any minute with such to me, so you will regret it.
So bindate minute yu melni comme ci anam gi dang ko reccu
comme bo ma bindalate xibaar yu melni ding ko reccu.
Then he wrote NB, SG, stroke PS, send her home. In fact, because this is unacceptable, full stop, fire her as an example to others. Not like her.
Pinana NB mu ne ko mu yónne yóbbu ko mu na génne ko dàq ko comme ni ñeneen.
These minutes I secretly photocopied.
Minutes yi nag dama ko photocopy si secret.
I wanted to write a memoir or something, or maybe an occasion like this would come.
Dama bëggoon a bind nag
if you explain to people, they will believe. And here's a photostat copy of one of these with such language. written to me for other staff. This was a lady who was suckling, and I passed her the file to write the minute, and she sent it through me, and it went. He couldn't accept it.
li nag jigéen la joo xam ne ni jamono jooju mu ngee nampal ci laa bind nag lii mu daldi ko jaarale ko ci moom.
Please let me take a quick look. From this document, are you able to tell what was Yaya Jammeh's concern?
Ci kayit bii nii ndax di nga ci mun a wax Yaya Jammeh moom lan la ci jublu woon.
Lan la ko ci métti woon ba tax mu wax ju métti ji le.
I don't really remember because it's a long time.
Mënatuma ko fàttaliku ndax lu yàgg la.
Probably it could have been the language.
Mën naa man muy kàddu yoo xam ne.
Well, she is here that Your Excellency's kind attention is being drawn to folio 30 and minutes 27 and 28 on file in relation to search and rescue exercise. Mattered Ensign Kana Konili. Well, I don't know what Mattered Ensign Kana Konili means. Maybe Kana Konili is not English. Maybe it's either an acronym or just a name that is given to the search and rescue operation. But take a look at it again. Maybe you can find, decipher the problem Jammeh had with this. Just a moment, Mr. Chair, I'll send it to you.
Go ahead, yes. But while he's doing that, probably can help us with context as well. The commissioners can see the document later on.
Thank you.
But if you can provide context.
A bit of context and just a bit of background, and then we
precisely.
This was supposed to have been a search and rescue exercise.
Dina dafa waroon a nekk jamono boo xam ne affaire jamono gestu la ak sowe.
With partner security services, I think this was a civil defense. It had to deal with the fire service and the military together. And the military were being asked to nominate 1 or 2 candidates. So he was being requested to, you give in 2 or 3 names, and he chooses from them. That's why he said any one of these above officers can go. CDS to call on the above.
So he was not satisfied perhaps with the manner in which, or the language in which the minute was written.
Yes. I should think so, yes. I remember.
But of course you know that to write, the person's ability to write to a considerable extent depends on the person's education or level of education.
She was a PAS at the time.
PAS la wanti jamano bobu.
Assistant secretary.
Principal assistant secretary.
But you would agree that the person's ability to write to a considerable extent would depend on the person's level of education.
Indeed.
Wow.
And would it be fair to say that Yaya Jammeh expected a very high level of writing and reading skills?
Hejna Yaya Jammeh mo doon sentu nak yeneen anam yi façon ngi bindin yoo xam ne yu kowe la yoo xam ne ci anam yu for laa doon niñ ko mën a bindee ak niñ koo jàngee.
That is what he expected in this minute.
Hejna loolu la doon sentu ci xibaar yiñ binda nii.
This was a very simple minute.
Minute bu simple la bu yomb la woon rek.
So it didn't implicate any detailed issues as PS or DPS. We don't want to involve a PAS to write any complicated minute. These are a few lines.
But we are talking about Yaya Jammeh's expectations. You told us that when you write something, he would check your commas, your punctuation, and all that. So he expected a high standard.
Yes, indeed.
Well, ñu ngi wax li nga xam ne moom la Yaya Jammeh doon séntu parce que ci gannaaw tuuti wax nga fi ne boo ko bindalee dara dina seet anam yi nga ko bindee fa nga dalee fa nga ekkatee xëj na moom tam yu mel noonu la doon séntu ci xibaar yooyu ñu bindoon.
mu ngi doon séntu mun na binda bu kowe ci ñiy liggéey ci nguur gi.
Loolu am na.
That's what loolu la.
Loolu am na.
But the fact of the matter is, isn't that really foolish, considering the fact that the recruitment policy of government at the time signaled the very opposite?
Ndax loolu du doon mbir moo xam ne nag lu doy waar la ndaxte soo ko seetloo.
lu ñàkk a fula la lu ñàkk a solo.
li nga xam ne noonu lañ daan jëlee liggéeykat yi ci anam boobu dafa ute ak façon bii nii.
Council could have been right, you know.
Well, mun naa nekk dëgg nag.
Could have been right or council is right.
Mun naa nekk dëgg wala council dëgg la.
All right, council is right.
Waaw kon dëgg la.
Well, it has to be about the content, really, of the proposition.
Former President Jammeh was known for his high expectations regarding the quality of written communication from his staff. He demanded that documents presented to him be written in impeccable English with proper punctuation, sentence structure, and grammar. The witness testified that Jammeh would closely scrutinize these aspects and even acted harshly when standards were not met. In one instance, a senior secretary submitted a document that failed to meet his expectations, prompting Jammeh to forward it to another secretary with the alarming directive to fire her. This level of scrutiny and demand for perfection stands in stark contrast to his apparent disregard for qualifications when appointing individuals to critical security and intelligence roles, a contradiction noted by lead counsel. Here is Harry Sambou once again.
Let's take a look at the NIA. That would take us to the next topic we wanted to discuss. That is the recruitment policy of the NIA.
léegi nañ seet ci mbiri NIA loolu dinañu mun a yóbbu ba ci beneen fànn bi nga xam ne moom lañ bëgg a waxtaanee mooy ni nga xam ne noonu la ñoo jëlee liggéey ay nit ci NIA.
A lot of the NIA officers, senior NIA officers, including directors general, had no qualification higher than secondary 4.
ñi nga xam ne ñoo nekk ci NIA bokk na ci sax ñi nga xam ne nekk nañ directeur général jiite NIA yëpp seen maxaama ci seen wàlli njànga weesuwul fi ñoo wax secondary 4.
Agreed.
nangu naa.
Isn't that a tragedy?
It was worse than a tragedy.
Maybe you have better words to describe it.
xëj na am na yeneen anam yoo ko mun a waxee.
Well, this is something I found there. And sometimes officers are sent over to the NIA for enlistment from the State House.
Allow for the interpretation to complete.
Sorry. Sometimes they are moved from the police or the military. With orders.
NIA is the institution we have seen where the security guards are promoted all the way to director.
NIA rek mooy liggéeykaay boo xam ne ñi nga xam ne ay security guard la ñiy garde sax dinañ jël yokk seen maxaama ba mu kowe ba toll ci place directeur.
That was not during my time.
loolu nag du ci suma jamono.
It used to happen.
waaye daan na am.
It has happened.
am na.
But this is supposed to be an intelligence institution.
lii dafa war a nekk liggéeykaay boo xam ne ay ñu xerañ la war a doon.
This is supposed to be at the heart of government.
lii dafa war a nekk loo xam ne mu ngi ci diggi xoli nguur gi.
Doing some of the most sensitive intellectual work for the government.
ñoo xam ne ñoom ñooy def liggéey boo xam ne liggéey bu jar a bàyyi xel la ci nguur gi.
Jig liggéey xam-xam bu rëy pour nguur gi. But look at the NIA. A lot of the people who were recruited into the service had no more than secondary 4 certificates.
waaye seetal NIA nag ñi ci ëpp yëpp ñi daan jël liggéey foofu amuñ maxaama bu weesu secondary school certificate.
That is true.
loolu dëgg la.
Isn't that a terrible disappointment?
loolu nag nekkul mbir moo xam ne lu doy waar.
It was when I first took over in
loolu la jamono bi nga xam ne ci laa njëkk jël nag
March
place bi.
2006.
weeri March atum 2006.
I met
ci laa fekk
a new batch of recruits
batch bu ees boo xam ne ñu ngi leen a jël si liggéey.
that were just enlisted.
yoo xam ne dañ leen bind ees rek.
The Marena.
ci Marena.
They had not even undergone the simplest of training, which is the tradecraft.
ñoo xam ne nii sax commencé guñ njàng mi gën a suufee ci wàlli liggéey bi.
About 150.
lu dem si téeméer ak juróom fukk.
And I embarked on an institutional reform.
te tamit jamono jooju maa ngi doon nekk nag ci mbiri wëlbati wàlli bunti liggéeykaay wecceeku yoo xam ne dañ ko fay def.
But I couldn't complete it.
waaye nag mënu moon koo sottal.
Why?
Events of the 2006 coup
ndek xew-xew bi nga xam ne ni mu ngi amoon ci 2002 coup bi amoon.
overtook that exercise.
moom nag moo jël nag liggéey boobu yëpp.
And I was eventually removed before I completed the job.
gannaaw loolu nag ci lañ ma fa génnee balaa ma doon sottal nag liggéey boobu.
But it's exactly what lead counsel said.
waaye nag mooy li lead counsel wax.
I mean, isn't it counterintuitive to recruit people who had no significant qualification, yet you expect the highest level of performance from them?
ndax lii amul jaamaaroo boo xam ne mu ngi ci nga jël nit liggéey koo xam ne xam-xamam dafa néew nga séntu nag mu def liggéey boo xam ne borom xam-xam yu kawe ñoo ko war a def.
To a certain degree,
yenn maqama yi.
it was more or less like a dumping ground.
dafa mel ni rek béréb la boo xam ne nii tuureekaay la.
But the NIA was, yes, okay, dumping ground from other institutions. But the foreign affairs was even worse because the NIA people were dumped into foreign affairs afterwards.
waa dëgg la NIA moom béréb la comme mbalit la woon rek dañoo ga jëlee nit fële rek ñëw sànni la fa waaye nag bunta bi saytu woon diggante réew mi bitim réew ñoo génnoon na bon sax ndaxte ñoom itamit dañ daan jëlee ay nit NIA rek sànni leen fa.
True or false?
Indeed.
dëgg la.
True?
True.
dëgg la.
I have seen a statement yesterday
am na kàddu bu bind boo xam ne gis naa ko démba.
of someone who had only secondary 4 certificate.
koo xam ne moom kay certificate secondary 4 rek la am.
Grew to be senior officer at NIA.
ñu jël ko yóbbu ko mu amee maxaami kilifa ci NIA.
And moved to Morocco or Taiwan as counselor and head of mission.
ñu yóbbu ko Morocco ndax Taiwan def ko counselor mu jiite ña nga xam ne ñoo fa teewal réew mi.
I know.
What would you say to that?
loo am pour wax ci loolu.
Successive DGs.
yenn DG yi nga xam ne ni sottal nañ.
Picked up their boys.
dañuy jël seen nit ñi.
And relatives.
ay mbokk.
And sent them to foreign affairs.
dal di leen yóbbu nag ci yenn foreign affairs ci bitim réew.
For eventual posting.
pour nag ñu dal di fa liggéey.
As a NIA liaison officer in the embassy.
ñu dal di fa toogal NIA ci embassy boobu.
There's a provision to post an NIA officer in most of the embassies.
And
the budgetary allocations are independent from that of foreign affairs. Drawn from the NIA's budget. This is why they send their people. They rise up, and when you go send somebody to an embassy, our embassies most of the time are understaffed.
At the
end of the day, the liaison officer is the one who is left there. Rather than post somebody new from Foreign Affairs Banjul,
foreign affairs
a liaison officer is just automatically elevated.
So in a sense, the position of a trained diplomat who under the general orders must have a minimum qualification of bachelor's degree is now given to a secondary 4 holder from the NIA.
The irony here is, lead counsel, I won't hide it. I have seen it. You send a liaison officer to Senegal. Like you said, he is a secondary 4 graduate. Doesn't even have a command of the English language, let alone French. Sometimes he's not good in English, in Wolof. And you post him to Senegal. What do you expect of that guy? And invariably, even whereas the DG who posted him there has been changed, you can't touch him.
Why is that?
I don't know. Various.
Of course, Mr. Sambou, you do know.
It hasn't happened in
don't
time.
You cannot hide behind I don't know.
No.
Call a spade and speak it out.
We are coming. I won't hide. You can be rest assured, lead counsel.
Thank you. Thank you. See, call it as it is. Why can't such people be touched?
The affinities. Their affinities.
What affinities?
Sometimes,
these things are not in the abstract.
Sometimes family.
Family, yes.
You just mentioned tribe.
Tribe? No, I didn't mention.
No, not here. In your introduction to the issues to be discussed.
Yeah. Okay, yes. Tribe.
That's an inference to that. And sometimes friendship.
But
then with the frequent changes in leadership in the NIA, nothing was permanent. And so deployments, transfers, and so on, ended up jumbled up. There was real need for institutional reform in that place. But then with the interference from above,
all these changes would not have happened without Jammeh's knowledge.
Of course.
He must have given tacit or expressed approval.
Lead counsel. A witness here from the NIA said the NIA was under the office of the president. The NIA was Yaya Jammeh's baby. Nothing happened inside the NIA.
I think you are putting it nicely. It was Yaya Jammeh's stool. It was his tool, would you agree?
Of course.
Wow.
In fact, from day one, it was his tool to perpetrate the worst human rights violations against Gambians. Could you answer now?
Yes.
Wow.
You agree with that?
Of course, I agree.
And let's talk about when you first entered the NIA and the violations that happened very early on.
Léegi nag ñu wax ba nga njëkkee commencé dugga NIA ak li nga xam ne moo di yàq yelleef yi nga xam ne moo fa doon xew gannaaw bi.
Of course, we take cognizance of the fact that the NSS moved into the NIA.
Ba tey dinañ bàyyi xel nag ne ñoo NSS ñoo wëlbatiku dugga ci biir NIA. And
at the outset, you were director of administration and finance, isn't it?
Director of administration and finance.
Yes. Even from that early on, the NIA was used as an institution to torture people in order to get what Yaya Jammeh wanted.
Ndaxam sax ca ndortega NIA dañ ko jëlon rek def ko jumtuwaay boo xam ne dañu mbugal nit ñi di leen mitital pour am rek ci ñoom li nga xam ne moom la Yaya Jammeh soxla ci ñoom.
True or false?
Dëgg la wala déet?
Waaw, dëgg la.
May I comment?
Ndax mun naa ñëw?
May I elucidate?
Please go ahead.
Lead Counsel, the primary function of an intelligence gathering institution.
Lead Counsel, li njël benn liggéey buntu liggéey kay
intelligence institution is to gather intelligence.
Ci liggéey bu mel ni ki NIA mooy pour ñu dajale ay bataaxel yu.
Look into threats against the state.
Ak tamit seetlu nag li nga xam ne ni mu ngi jëm ci wàllu luy xejamal jàmmi réew mi.
If you look at other institutions in the neighboring countries or the US or UK.
So seetee nag yu ngeen liggéeykaay ci yeneen dëkk yu ñu jege wala ci United States wala ci UK bi.
You will find out that they have adequate independence.
Da ngay gis ne daal ñoom wéeruwuñ ci kenn.
But in the case of the Gambia and the NIA.
Waaye nag su ñëwee ci mbiri Gambia ak NIA bi.
What French will call instrumentalisation.
Li French di wax instrumentalisation.
Use, like you said, as a tool.
Dañ lay jëfandaay.
The institution.
Di buntu liggéeykaay boobu.
It occurs.
Léegi mu xew.
Let's make a comparison between the NSS and the NIA.
Bu ñëwee ñu méngale diggante NSS ak NIA.
I served in the NSS.
Liggéey naa ci NSS.
We strictly gathered intelligence.
Dañ dee dajale ay bataaxel yu mbuut.
And sent it to the head of state.
Ñu dal di ko àggale nag ci njiiti réew mi.
And he passed on the orders to the SG.
Mu dal di yónnee nag bataaxel boobu ci SG bi.
And decisions were taken.
Ñu dal di jël ay dogal.
These were white papers.
Lii nag nekk na ay kayit.
Researches on the economy.
Di seet nag ci mbiri koom-koomi réew mi. Ak nekki ni nit ñi.
And other things.
Ak yeneen i fànn.
But.
Waaye.
With the NIA.
Ak ci NIA nag.
Which was created.
Nga xam ne ni sos ko nag.
After dissolving the NSS.
Gannaaw boo xam ne tasaare nañ NSS bi.
Not only new faces came.
Nekkul rek ne sax ay kanam yu ees ñoo ñëw.
Because most of the old guys in the NSS were.
Waaye ñu bari nag ci NSS bi ñoom joxoon nañ leen liggéey bi.
Yaya Jammeh give it a new function and a new role.
daal Yaya Jammeh daf ko joxoon beneen façon ngi liggéey ak beneen façon ngi warugal.
And in that, the NIA was giving much broader powers than the NSS. You agree with that?
Ci kaw loolu dafa mel ni NIA dañ leen jox gën a jox doole comme NSS.
Decree 45.
Waaw comme ni ki decree 45.
And no longer was the NIA limited to looking into things that affected the state. The NIA was now given powers to look into things that affected private individuals who resided in the country.
NIA na ñoom emale wuñ woon rek seen mbir ci loo xam ne daf doon xejamal wala kaaraange li nga xam ne moo di réew mi waaye duggoon nañ sax ba ci ay nit yoo xam ne ñu ngi nekkoon ci biir réew mi seen ay mbir.
Non jox nañ NIA doole boo xam ne mën nañoo gestu mbir yoo xam ne laal na nit ñi nga xam ne ñoo dëkk ci réew mi. Those were the extent of the powers. Say for instance, they can look into matters that affected the economic interests of residents in the country. Residents in the country is the word that was used generally in the legislation throughout. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Wow, nanguna.
And
Tayit.
We were talking about the character of the personality of the president.
Don't waxtaan ak lu jëm ci jikkoy president bi Yaya Jammeh.
If you correlate
the
functions as a tool of the NIA or whatever, everything was centered around Yaya Jammeh.
So in effect, are you suggesting therefore that when the words in the legislation say to investigate matters of significant economic interest of the state of the Gambia or other residents in the country, that phrase, other residents in the country, could have been equated or synonymous to Yaya Jammeh?
That's what I'm coming to say.
Proceed.
This was somebody who was, excuse me, so self-centered.
He
was egocentric to a level whereby the security threat to the security of the state was threat to his life, threat to him, threat to his family, threat to his properties, and he directed everything towards that.
Somebody once wrote that Yaya Jammeh's thinking is my Gambia, my country, my people, my farm, my this, everything was my. He owned us all and the country. Was it like that? Did you see it that way?
Yaya Jammeh xalaatam yeb moy suma rew, suma nit ñi, suma nangam, lu ci nek rek daf ko momale won bopam. Ndax yow gisee nga ko nonu?
I told lead counsel.
Lead counsel ne.
He brought about this fear phenomenon upon the civil service or armed and security forces.
So
as to subjugate them.
Fear
make them obey his orders. All times. All purposes. We've come back to the same thing. My this, my that, my that. I said he was egocentric.
May I
give you an example?
Yes, please.
A former ambassador of the United States to the Gambia, Pamela Ann White,
ambassador America Gambia, Pamela Ann White,
requested to pay me a courtesy call in my office. I directed her to write the necessary note verbal to Foreign Affairs and they would forward it to President's office.
Foreign Affairs office of the President.
And naturally, Foreign Affairs, President's office would forward it to me. When the note came, he saw it. He approved, of course. But with a note, footnote, that the SG should be present at the meeting. I said, okay. The lady came. I invited my deputy. Invited my principal assistant secretary to take notes. And the SG sent a representative. After the normal diplomatic niceties, we went into business. She proposed assistance, of course, training packages and all that stuff to us. And we thanked her for American assistance and cooperation. Our joint fight against anti-terrorism, human trafficking, money laundering, and all that stuff.
Terrorism ak wali ñi raxas xaalis ak yeneen.
And she was full of praise.
Te tamit nag mu amoon kontante.
For young technocrats within the system.
Si borom xam-xam yu ndaw yi nga xam ne ni ñu ngi si woon si liggéey bi.
She promised.
Mu digge ne.
Further aid.
Yeneen ndimbal.
She said it was time to continue working. Let's ignore the man's misbehaviors, and just concentrate on the job.
Jot na nag pour ñu liggéey ñu fàtte nag waa ji jikkoom ji nga xam ne ni noonu la dee doxalee.
We agreed and the meeting went well, fine. And
ñu nangu nag meeting bi continuer dem ni mu waree ñu dal di tasaaroo.
I am obliged to write a minute.
Cëri woon naa nag pour bind nag li nga xam ne ni moo xew ci meeting bi.
And I sent it upstairs.
Ma dal di ko yónnee ci kaw.
Where was upstairs?
Fan mooy ci kaw.
His office, to the president's office through the office of the Secretary General.
Office president bi jaaree ko na ci office Secretary General.
When his minute came down.
Bi bindam yi wàccee tontum.
He said.
What did he say?
Lan la fa wax.
He said, I will not forget that. The permanent secretary, rather than talk about our successes
permanent secretary bi ndem waxtaan suñu
in infrastructure and other things,
ci mbiri samp ak yeneen,
opened his big mouth
mu ubbi gémmiñam gu réy gi
praising the Americans.
di tëgg Americans yi.
I threw the file to my deputy. I said, read that.
Ma dal di jox na file bi suma deputy bi ne ko jàngal li.
Ma ne ko yow da nga expect man ma nekk Jaliba Yaya Jammeh ci jigéen bi.
You expect me to become Yaya Jammeh's Jaliba?
Man ma na toog di wax jaloore Yaya Jammeh ci jigéen bi.
Am I the one who should tell the Yaya Jammeh's history to this woman?
I told my deputy.
Ma wax ko suma deputy bi.
That's how he thinks.
Moom noonu la dee xalaatee.
It's all about himself.
So I was supposed to have... Pardon.
Former President Jammeh's behavior as described by the former Director General of the NIA highlights his self-centered and controlling nature. The example provided illustrates how Jammeh imposed conditions on a meeting between the U.S. Ambassador, Pamela Ann White, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, requiring the Secretary General to be present. Furthermore, his reaction to the minutes of the meeting, criticizing the DG for praising the Americans rather than focusing on national achievements, reflects his sensitivity to perceived slights and his desire to maintain control over narratives surrounding his leadership. This incident underscores Jammeh's authoritarian tendencies and his focus on projecting his own image above all else.
What?
It was all about himself.
Yeah.
Wow.
You had to sing his praises instead of anything else.
Here
we are talking about concrete things for the benefit of the country. But you had to, of course, emphasize he was Babili Mansa. He had done a lot of infrastructural development in the country. That's what was his expectation, wasn't it? But the civil service, we were all basically reduced into sycophancy. All of them praised him everywhere they went. Wasn't that the norm? Woe betide you if you don't do it. Mr. Sambou, I understand you even used to wear the asobi, the Yaya Jammeh asobi.
Sambou, yek na sax ne yow dang dan sol asobi Yaya Jammeh.
You're civil servant. Did. Could you say again? Everybody did.
Lolu kay ku nekka ko dan def.
And that's your defense? No. It was wrong, wasn't it?
Agreed.
Civil servants work for the government. And the government is neutral.
It should not be involved in party politics. And I repeat that for good reason. The government of the Gambia is separate and different from the politics of the country. Civil servants must not be involved in the politics of the country. You agree with that?
I do. May I?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yaya Jammeh ordered for these paraphernalia. Caps.
Yaya Jammeh jël na li nga xamantene mo nek doxalin bi nga xamantene mo doon am ci jamono bobu non.
Yaya Jammeh ci bopam mo indi bagage yoyu moy mbaxana yek asobi yek yoyu. Proceed.
And he would send bales of these tissues materials to various departments.
Te moy indi ay baloti jumtu wa yoyu diko indi ci liggéey kay
free of charge.
Te du ci fayeku dara.
Prior
to jitul
to the arrival of the date of whichever festivity it was.
Ci ben xew-xew bo xamne ni mu ngi wara ñew.
Who am I?
Man may kan?
Not to take the 6 or 10 meters my DG brings to me and said, he says we should distribute this to everybody.
Well, you
could cite the general orders to them.
Yes, at your own peril.
Could you explain what you mean?
You would simply be branded as an anti, as an opposition, as a saboteur, as a subverter, and you go. Send him home. And send him home means once you are out of State House or the gates of the NIA, they are waiting for you.
To take you where?
Where the Akos will say combo left hand.
The hotel. Combo left hand. The hotel.
The hotel. No, let's be frank. Apart from that, we've all seen what used to happen in Congo Kinshasa with Momodou Seseko. To go with Ayadema. Everybody will wear all these paraphernalia and be dancing at the airports and everything. This is the norm in Africa. It's African democracy. It's bad. We know. It's wrong.
It is Gambian tragedy. This is what we are talking about.
Accepted. Accepted.
Civil servants were paraded in airports dressed in Yaya Jammeh asobi.
But lead counsel, please, I beg. Apart from agriculture in this country, the government is this, and the civil service is the biggest employer. Every senior civil servant has about 20 mouths to feed in his house. Top of the village. Who would risk losing his job? You have an 80-year-old mom in the house. Nieces and nephews are waiting for their school fees.
So people had to comply.
If there were a choice, lead counsel, you would do it.
And just to save our jobs, I am saying our because I am including all of us in it. To save our jobs, we had to accommodate Yaya Jammeh to be a dictator.
Pour nak ñu mëna dess ci suñ liggéey ñun ñoo taxawal Yaya Jammeh pour mu nekk ko xamné nguuri jaay doole lay doxal ci suñ kaw.
What do you say to that?
Lo am pour wax ci lolu.
Degala.
That's true.
Olof ñane na bur bonu dag ya bon.
The Olaf said that the king is not bad, it's the followers. Ñun
The same, all of us the same, like we are saying.
Ñun ñep comme ni nga waxe ne ñun
are the same people
ñoy nit ñi nga xamne ni
mingling among ourselves.
ñoy doxlante ak suñu bop ñun.
And then go behind each other's backs.
Bu ko defé rek ñu dal di gannaawante wat.
And go and tell him stories.
Dal di ko bolé.
And he starts sucking this
Bu ko defé mu commencé di dak ki akale.
That's why he used to say what goes around comes around.
Bu ko defé nak motax daf daan wax ne lepp lo xamne wër lu wër rek dana wuñeeku ci wat fam joggé.
What he was.
Ñu ñoo Yaya Jammeh mel na melone.
And principally the NIA, which was the instrument that drove fear in the hearts of Gambians.
Ci nak NIA ñom ñoy ñi nga xamne ñoo daan indi raklu ci ñi nga xamne ñoo nekk wa Gambia seen kaw.
Wow.
And the first test, or rather the second test to Yaya Jammeh's authority was the attacks at Farafenni barracks.
Benen niñ doon xam xaymana li nga xamne modi dole Yaya Jammeh moy cionga gañ defon ci Farafenni.
Do you recall that incident?
Fatale ko nga xew bobu.
It's been a long time, but I can faintly remember after the
well, we will help you. Farafenni military barracks was attacked by dissidents from Liberia, ostensibly under the direction of Kukoy Samba Sanyang.
ñi nga xamne ñoo cionga bi amone Farafenni ñi ko defoon moy ay nit yo xamne ñu nga baye kon Liberia di wone ne ñu ko def ci ron nigali Kukoy Samba Sanyang.
That attack on our security forces
cionga bi nga xamne def nañ ko ci ñi nga xamne ñoo amé karange réew mi
culminated into the killing of a few Gambian soldiers. I should say many, in view of the size of our armed forces. Some put the number at 8 soldiers were killed at Farafenni. And some of those attackers were captured. Balo Kante, Yaya Jammeh, Omar Diouf was it Damfa, I think, Omar Diouf Damfa. Those were captured, I think Suleiman Sarr as well. Yes. They committed the crime of treason. They committed murder. Very serious crimes against the state. And we all condemn that attack. You recall that incident? Criminal as their conduct was, the perpetrators had rights that were enshrined under the Constitution of the Republic. You agree with that?
I do.
And no matter what they did, they ought to have been processed according to law. You agree?
I agree.
Tell us what happened when they were brought to the NIA for investigation.
They were brutally tortured.
Tortured by who?
Well, you had some soldiers were there. But they were in the then investigation department of
Who did the torturing?
Well, I think the investigation department was led by Fodebari. He had assistants. Lamin Jobate was there. He was responsible for prosecution matters.
Momo ame won du jëm ci mbiri ñu leena atté.
Baba Saho was also there.
Baba Saho tamit mu ngi fa won.
And a few young boys.
Ak yeneen ay ndaw.
I wouldn't remember who.
Ñoo xamne duma leen mëna faté ñan lañ.
Not unless maybe the list is called out and
xamne xeyna limbi na fim nek ni sax faté na leen.
Salmina Dramé, was he there?
Yes.
Wow.
These were members of the investigations unit. The question is, who did the torturing? Or ñan ñoo def the torturing?
Those
that I named here, they were one at the department.
Department before the torturing amona.
If they were there in the investigation department and there was torture, then they were the one?
Mr. Sambou, we are not going to put it like that.
Mr. Sambou,
we have to call a spade a spade. Yax bi mom nañ ko toj.
Okay, let's break it.
Let's hit the nail on the head and stop beating about the bush.
I won't.
You were there as de facto Deputy Director General, correct?
Indeed.
Yow yang fa wo nek Director General bi nga xamne mo fa genn.
Ki topon ci Director General.
Indeed.
Wow, deug la.
You saw what was happening.
Yang don gis li don xew.
Mos na fa dem gis len.
I once went there and I saw it.
Not just once, you've been there several times and then you saw what was going on.
Du ben yon da yang fa won ay yoni yon te gisoon nga li fa don.
Ñaar ñetta several la kon several la.
If at all is 2 or 3 is several, then it's several.
Well, so demé be am ñetta kañ passé nga couple.
Waaw deug la.
D'accord. So you saw what was going on?
I did.
Le gisoon nga li don dox.
Wa gis nako.
These people were tortured by your colleagues?
Ni sa ay liggéeyandoor ñoo leen doon bugal.
Indeed.
Wow.
Who are they?
Ñan la?
For the bari, as I said.
For the bari, comme ni mako waxe.
Baba Saho.
Baba Saho.
Bate.
Jobate.
Which Jobate?
Lamin.
Lamin.
Otherwise known by what other name?
Babanding.
Babanding lañ ko gëna xamé.
And I think you mentioned another name, I can't remember.
I mentioned Salmina Dramé.
Yes.
Was he there?
Salmina Dramé la fi.
The whole team was there. I wouldn't remember everybody.
Duma mëna fatalé ko ñep.
Team was there.
But the question is, was he there?
He was.
Wow,
did he participate in the tortures?
Bokon na ci ñi doon def mitital yoy di mbugal nit ñi fofu.
It's been a long time, I wouldn't know, but I presume yes.
Yag na de duma mëna xam waye nak dana wax ne waaw.
You presume or you believe?
Yaakaar nga wala gëm nga ne?
Yes, I believe.
Waaw gëm na ne.
How about Jim Dramé?
Naka Jim Dramé nak?
He was part of the team.
Momit bokon na ci kurel gogu.
Part of the torturers?
Bokon na ci ñi doon bugalé.
Well, if the others tortured, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Bu fekkee ne ñeneen ñi daldi won nañu door ñooñu mom lutax du ko def.
Tell us a bit about those tortures.
Wax ñu lu aju ci mitital yoy nga xamne mom lañ doon def.
What you saw, Balo Kante, Yaya Dramé, Omar Diouf Damfa, and all this.
Li nga gis Balo Kante,
Suleiman
Yaya
Sarr,
Damfa, Omar Diouf Dramé, Suleiman Sarr.
Omar Diouf Damfa, Suleiman.
Omar Diouf Damfa ak Suleiman Sarr.
I heard Balo Kante saying that they were severely beaten.
Dégg na Balo Kante di wax ne dañ leen door yu metti metti.
In fact, he also said that his nipple was cut off.
Mom sax dal dina wax tamit ne dal dina ñu dog li ñam
Ci sambi.
ci sambi.
He particularly mentioned Jobate.
Tay tamit daf ci tuddu nak Jobate.
From what you heard Bale Kante say,
Li nga dégg Balo Kante wax ko.
did you notice any lie? He said.
Ndax seetlu nga ci kàddu yim fi wax yépp ndax am na ci dara lu mu wax te doonu dëgg.
I would have said he lied about me, but during my tete-a-tete with lead counsel in his office,
dina doon mëna wax ne dafa fen ci suma mbir waye waxtaan wi nga xamne amna ko lead and counsel
facts and reminded me, and I agreed with lead counsel. Yes.
I
definitely, he refreshed my mind, and I agree.
So you agree that what Balo Kante said was true?
Yes, I do. Like I told lead counsel in his office. First, it knows it. He
knows what pains him, so whatever he said is true. I will not deny it.
Balo Kante suggested that you came in, you saw him and the others being tortured, and you did not say or do anything to stop it.
Balo Kante wax na ne yow da nga dugg si fekk mom ak ñeneen ñu ngi leen di mitital di leen mbugal waaye yow waxuloo ci dara pour tere leen.
Yes, it is in the allegation on the notice of
adverse mention.
Wow, comme mu ngi ci tuuma yi nga xamne mom lañ yombali wax.
And I have replied.
Te tontu na.
Which I submitted today.
Yes, of course you have a right not to incriminate yourself. We remind you of that fact. And what is your answer to this allegation? That you are there, you are Deputy Director General of the de facto Deputy Director General of the NIA. You saw them being tortured. You did or say nothing to stop it.
There, I didn't do anything. It is in my statement. But I went upstairs.
If you answer out of turn, it may not be captured.
Sorry.
Yes, could you respond now?
There, I did not do anything. But I went upstairs and called the attention of the boss. Those down there were not under me. They are under the big boss, Sambaba. When I called his attention, he looked at me and said I was a coward.
The irony of this whole thing, Mr. Sambou, is that some of these witnesses seem to suggest that whenever you go there, the torture against them seems to intensify.
ñi nga xam ne yëpp ñoo fi joxe seen seede liñ fi wax mooy ne buñ leen dee mbugal di leen mitital noonu yow saa yoo duggasee rek mitit bi dafay gën a tar.
What do you say to that?
Alors am pour wax ci loolu.
That's the 5th issue on the adverse mention.
Loolu nag mooy juróomeeli bunta boo xam ne ñu nko ci tudda.
Even for Balo Kante and others, that is the suggestion.
In
fact, they suggested a little more than that, and I am building up. I'm giving you the opportunity to respond to these things. And
I am responding. I wrote that
Damfa
and Kante have the right to feel, say what they said. Because they were at that time in a very difficult situation. Like I said, who feels it knows it. But I was not supposed to be there and give command to the boys down there. I told Sambaba. Like I said, he said I was a coward. But it was up to him to take a decision as to what I raised or as to the because he was the boss.
But Omar Diouf seems to suggest that you were complicit in their torture.
Omar Diouf mom wax na ne yow bokkon nga sax andon nga ci mitital bu nga xamne mom lañ leen doon def.
I have just said that he has a right to his opinion.
Waaw comme ni ma waxee rek
is either subjective or objective.
Nek na ko xamne ni amna ciir ci li nga xamne ni lool moy xalaatam ak li muy wax.
On the perspective of the individual.
Des na rek ci li nga xamne non la ko waxe mo xam nak.
The information the commission received is that whenever you show up in the torture room, you would say, "Nasaf de, nasafa saf."
xibaar nga xam ne moom la fi commission bi jot mooy ñi fi wax nañ ne yow daal saa yu ñu leen di mbugal di leen mitital boo duggasee daal dangay ne na safa saf rek.
Those that knows Hari Sambou, he is not that type of person.
We have seen quite a lot of characters before this TRRC. Did you or did you not say that?
I don't think I said it. No, I didn't. I don't want to tell a lie. I did that.
It means you are not sure whether you did or did not.
I would prefer to differ.
That is
to differ. D-I-F-F-E-R, not D-E-F-E-R.
Okay.
I cannot defer the answer.
Well, to defer it means to push it aside,
no,
not to deal with it now. So to differ means to not agree.
Yes.
All right. So you do not agree.
I do not agree.
Well, what don't you agree with? The question is, you said that you're not quite sure. I can't recall the exact words you said, I think not. I think those were the words you
used. At the end of the sentence.
So because you think not.
At the end of the sentence, lead counsel, I said no.
But no matter how it is packaged, it suggests that you are not sure.
But I've just said no, I don't agree.
What don't you agree with?
I have just told you that the Hari Sambou I know is not like that.
Well, we all thought that the people who were recruited in our national intelligence agency were not like that. Answer now.
Yes, I know.
So we all thought that they were very decent people who would respect the rights of Gambians. We all thought that those who were doing the torturing of Gambians were foreigners. Lo and behold, these are our own brothers who are torturing us.
People have different backgrounds, different levels of home education.
But you would agree that it is really disappointing and abhorrent that it was us who were torturing one another.
Agreed.
You answer now.
I said agreed.
Yes, the thing is, if you answer out of turn, it's not reflected, because I am watching the screen as we go ahead, so sometimes if you answer out of turn, it's not recorded.
I agree.
So the fact that you say the Hari Sambou I know would not do this is in fact not good evidence before this commission. Because the people we expected or we thought were doing the tortures were in fact the people who we least expected would do it. If you look at it, amongst the torturers you have mentioned, let's take them again, name them one by one. First person,
Fodebari.
Second person,
Saho.
Baba Saho.
Third person,
Lamin Jobate.
Fourth person,
Talmina Drame.
You have a similar background to Baba Dinding Jobate. Legal training, social welfare, NIA. You have just implicated him in torture.
I have mentioned home training. He didn't mention that one.
Home training is not verifiable.
It's okay.
But you can see that even people with the highest level of education, and we would expect decency, you have implicated them in torture.
One, I am not the only one who implicated them. I'm not the first one to have done so.
Of course, we take note of that.
Okay.
You are corroborating the allegations of other people.
Just like others are corroborating the allegations of others against me.
It therefore behoves you to accept the veracity of the allegations against you.
That is why I said it's a long time, I don't remember.
But isn't this convenient, Mr. Sambou?
I don't agree with him.
Isn't this convenient? You are very able to recollect and corroborate the torture or the allegations of torture by your colleagues, but you cannot remember to accept the areas in which you are implicated in that torture. You choose to think not. You choose not to remember.
I have personally never tortured anybody.
That is a given. The allegation is not that you tortured. We do not have any such evidence. And we apologize if you think that that is the kind of suggestion we are making. But the evidence is you have encouraged, you have encourage the torturers to do it harder. Nasafasaf.
That's what he said.
Yes, that's what he said. And he who feels it knows it.
Yes. I wouldn't agree with him on that.
But this is the issue here. You are able to recall quite vividly when your colleagues did the torture, but you cannot recollect when you encourage those same colleagues to do the torture. It's like self-preservation.
Wali dafa melni da nga tan dal mun nga fateleku say natango ñom bugal ak mitital yi nga xamne ñu ko doon tek ñeneen way yow mënulo fateleku yow mi sa bop fekke nga ko ak la nga xamne mom nga ci def pour hital leen ñu gën ko def melni da nga tan li nga fateleku.
No, I wouldn't want to self-preserve myself.
But no matter, well, perhaps maybe I should just read out the law at this stage. The law for amnesty.
Lead counsel, let's draw a conclusion to this.
I'm listening. Please proceed.
If this is the situation, yes.
Not so simple.
Okay, yes.
We are out for the truth.
Yes.
We are not out to get convenient
truth.
No. Convenient arrangements because of the situation. Okay. So that is why I am not prepared to trade certain agreements with the search for the truth. Are you accepting responsibility for these tortures, that you are accused to have been complicit in these tortures as somebody who encouraged the torture. Is that what you are accepting?
Ndax yow nangu bi nga nangu ni moy ne nangu nga ne yow fekke nga mitital yoy ñuy def ba pare yang doon hirtal ñi nga xamne ñoon ko doon def anda ci ak ñoom pour ñu gën ko yokka.
Or as the deputy director who was there went and saw witnessed.
Comme ni deputy director ki top ci kilifa gi comme fekke ko.
These are two things. These are two different strands of responsibility. One is superior responsibility, being Deputy Director General, seeing it happen, you know a crime was being committed, and you did or said nothing to stop, to prevent it.
There.
Yes.
Later I did.
But even when you did later, the tortures didn't stop, they continued. So this first limb, that is responsibility as a superior. Or as a commander, because the NIA had a command structure. So do you agree responsibility on that limb?
I do.
Wow, definitely.
And the other limb for responsibility is you encouraging the torture. One of the victims said that whenever you come, the tortures intensify because you would say, Nasaf de nagenasaf.
Sa yo duga se rek mitit bi dafa gëna tar ndax dang leen di wax ne ñu yokka mitit bi na sax mu gëna safa saf.
Do you deny that?
Weddi nga lolu.
Or do you accept it?
Ndax nangu nga.
It's difficult to
dana jafe pour
agree with him, but I accept.
Nangu ak mu and ak mom way nak nangul nako.
I accept.
The commission will have had your answer, and the commission would draw whatever conclusions that is to be drawn in this.
I hope so, but I agree.
Right, thank you. These people were not, we talked about the methods of torture that was used on them. Apart from the beating, could you recollect what other methods of torture was used on them?
I heard Balo talking about plastics.
Plastic.
And what about the plastics?
What plastic you look more than?
They were being burnt on them.
Do you recollect seeing this happen or learning about this happening to them?
Yes, I was aware.
Balo was truthful.
He who feels it knows it.
But answer the question, was Balo truthful?
Yes, in that sense, yes.
In the real sense, was he truthful?
Yes. He was.
He also talked about electrocution.
Yes, I heard about it.
As far as you know, who did these tortures, the burning with plastic and the electrocution?
I think what I heard Balo said. Modi and Baba.
Now let us not talk about what you heard from the victim. Let's talk about what you know to have happened as de facto Director General at the NIA at that time.
léegi nañ fàtte li nga xam ne moom nga dégg seede bi wax yow ci sa wàlli xam-xam li nga xam comme que yaa nekkoon ki toppa ci directeur général bi loo xam ci mbir moomu.
Who was doing the tortures?
ñan ñoo doon def mitital
those tortures, the electrocution and the burning with liquid plastic.
mitital yooyu ñan ñoo ko doon def di sokkuraan yi ci seen kaw ak di jël lakka mbuusi di leen ko toxal.
I presume the same guys that we mentioned before.
yaakaar naa rek comme ñi tuddoon ca njëlbeen.
Are you avoiding to mention their names?
xanaa da ngaa moytu pour ba tudda seen tur.
The same Baba, the same Masan.
Fodé Bari, Baba.
Jim, the same.
Jim.
Who else? Yes.
Let's take it step by step. Nailera.
nañ ko jël benn benn.
Mention the names. Number 1.
Baba Saho.
Baba Saho.
Fodé Bari.
Fodé Bari. Jobate. Salmina. Jim.
So, Salmina, what's his last name?
Salmina num santa.
Drame.
Jim, what's his last name?
Jim num santa.
I think also Drame.
Jim mani foog naa mooy Drame
la.
Baba, what's his last name?
Saho.
Lamin, what's his last name?
Jobate.
And Fode, what's his last name?
Bari.
These were the people who were doing those tortures.
ñii ñu lim nii ñoo doon def mititali ci kaw ñooñu.
You mentioned that you talked to Samba Ba about the tortures.
wax nga ne wax nga ak Samba Ba mbiri mititali yi.
Where is Samba Ba now?
ana Samba Ba.
He's late, he's deceased.
gaañu na léegi.
So, do you have any other person to corroborate your suggestion that you talk to the DG against these tortures?
am nga keneen ku mun a wéral sa kàddu yi nga wax ne wax nga directeur général bi lu aju ci mitital yi nga xam ne moom la fa doon def.
No, I don't, because my discussions with Sambaba were private. He was my boss, and when I go into his office, I knock, I enter, he closes the door.
déedéet amuma ko
I leave.
da suma waxtaan ak Samba Ba yëpp mooy suma boss la dafa nekk loo xam ne man ak moom rek la su ñëwee mu tëj bunta bi ñu waxtaan ma génn.
In essence, the only person who would have corroborated your defense that you objected to this is someone who is normal.
Yes.
mel ni daa kenn ki am ne moo mun a wéral sa kàddu yooyu rek nit la koo xam ne léegi ndam si yàlla la dundatul.
But nonetheless, you accept responsibilities on two limbs of responsibility. One is superior responsibility, the other is encouragement.
I do.
waaye ba léegi nangu nga daal ne li nga xam ne moom lañ la teg ne moom nga def nangu nga ko ci ñaari fànn yépp yow kilifa nga nekk fa ba pare nekk nga koo xam ne ànd nga ci liñ doon def.
Could you respond now?
I said I do.
waaw def nangu naa.
Okay, let's then move on to another issue.
léegi ñu jàll ci beneen mbir.
No, perhaps I should stick with this for a little while. There were soldiers who were also present at some point during these tortures.
amoon na ay soldaar yoo xam ne léeg-léeg jamono joo xam ne dina ñuy fekkee mbugal yi nga xam ne moom la ñoo teg nit ñi foofu.
Do you recall?
fàttale ko nga.
Yes, Samsudin Sar was mentioned.
waaw Samsudin Sar tudde nañ ko ci.
Do you recollect him being there?
fàttale ko nga moom mu ngi fa.
When these rebels were first brought in from Farafenni,
jamono bi nga xam ne ci lañ indi rebel yi ci njëlbeen ci place bi.
all came down to see who they were.
ñëpp dañ ñëw pour seet ñan lañ.
And at that stage, these guys were being tortured.
te jamono boobu ñooñu ñu ngi leen doon mbugal di leen mitital.
Correct?
dëgg la.
Confirmed.
dëgg la.
You answering out of turn.
They confirmed.
Because this is a record that is being kept here. We don't want there to be a confusion as to whether the witness answered or did not answer.
Yes, they confirmed.
So these people were present, Samsudin Sar and others were present while these rebels were being tortured.
Samsudin Sar ak ñee ñu nga teewoon jamono yi nga xam ne ñu ngi doon mitital rebel yooyu foofu.
Yes.
Wow.
Good. Do you know whether any one of those soldiers participated in the torture in one way or another?
ndax xam nga ndax kenn ci soldat yooyu bokkoon nañ ci mitital yi nga xam ne moom lañ fa doon teg ñooñu ci nu mun a demee.
Sir did.
Could you say again?
I said I think Sir did.
yaakaar naa Sir def na ko.
What do you recall him do?
loo fàttaliku loo xam ne Sir def na ko.
Exactly, definitely I wouldn't recall.
mu ne ma mënuma fàttaliku lan la def ndax loolu yàgg na.
Had it not been for Mbalo's accusation of me, I wouldn't have remembered.
su duutoon nag Mbalo li ma tuumaal sax duma ko doon fàttaliku.
Did you just sort this out of your memory?
Oh, no. Well, I'm reminded. The things are coming back. It's been years.
ma fàttali mu ngi ñëw ndànk da ay at la ci gannaaw.
I have to be frank.
dama war a wax dëgg rek.
I have to be frank.
Your recollection
li nga fàttaliku.
is that Sir participated.
moo ne Sir bokk na ci.
Would you answer now?
Yes.
Wow.
léegi tontu.
What recollection do you have of what he may have done?
lan nga fàttaliku ci loo xam ne Sir def na ko.
I don't know. I don't know.
What is your basis for saying that he participated?
bon yow na foo sukkandiku ci wane ne moom bokk na.
You must have something in your mind which would tell you that he participated.
foog mu am loo xam ne mu ngi ci sa xel mi lu la mun a won ne bokkoon na.
It's difficult.
jafe na lool.
I'm very sorry.
It cannot be just a guesstimate.
du nekk loo xam ne danga xalaat rek foog rek de.
You must have something in your mind to tell you that this person participated.
foog mu am lu nekk ci sa xel mi lu la won ne Sir mi bokk na.
You must have seen him do something in order to be able to suggest that he participated in torture.
ñàkkut ne foog nga gis dara loo xam ne gis nga mu def ko loo xam ne dina la mun a won ne kii bokk na ci ñu doon mitital.
Beating?
Dóore.
Did you see him beat?
danga ko gis muy dóor.
I think I did.
yaakaar naa daal gis naa ko.
You think, you know, you saw.
nga foog nga xam nga gis.
I wouldn't know without seeing.
duma xam su fekkee ne gisuma ko.
Of course.
Yes.
That's why, that's so when you know, it's not just you think.
loolu moo tax nag mu wéral ne bu fekkee ne danga xam nekkul ne danga foog de.
You know.
xam nga.
Did Sir beat?
ndax Sir dóor na.
One or more of the rebels?
kenn wala lu ëpp kenn ci rebel yi.
Or he did not?
ndax dóorut.
I think he did.
yaakaar naa def na ko
dóor na.
dóor na.
Balo Kante.
Balo Kante.
He said that Samsidine Sar
wax na ne Samsidine Sar
kicked him with his boots.
wéxa ko ak dàllaami.
He stamped. He stamped him. He trampled upon him.
déggaat na ci kawam ak dàlla.
He also beat him with his fist.
dóor na ko tamit ak ay kurpeñam.
And somebody he could recall as Babukar Jata grabbed him and stopped him.
am na koo xam ne fàttaliku na ne Babukar Jaata la moo ñëw songa ko dal di ko tere.
Is Balo Kante lying?
Balo Kante dafa fen.
I don't think so.
fooguma ko de.
Is Balo Kante speaking the truth?
Balo Kante dëgg la wax.
I'm inclined to believe.
mënuma gëm.
It's very well nuanced, Mr. Sambou. It's very well nuanced.
li lu wér la.
With all those qualifications.
ak li nga xam ne yépp sa maxaama.
What is the truth?
xam li nga xam liy dëgg bi.
No, wax ji leerut nañ. am na gaaral yuñ ci gaaral yoo xam ne dafa tax nit ki du xam liñ ci jublu lépp lan la nañ ko leeral ba mu leer nañ comme ni olof di wax rek ñu toj yax bi su ko defee feeñal lépp Baalo Kante lim wax dëgg la ndax du dëgg.
wax na dëgg.
He said the truth.
Could you answer now?
wax na dëgg.
Yes, it's true.
Thank you very much. Now, let us move to perhaps a little. What was happening there? You are trained in the law, Mr. Sambou. What was happening there with these these rebels who unlawfully attacked the Parafenye barracks and unlawfully killed some Gambian soldiers?
Mr. Sambou, yow jàng nga loi lan mooy li nga xam ne moo doon xew ci rebel yooyu nga xam ne dañ songa Farafenni te jaarale wuñ ko ci loi am ñoo xam ne rey nañ leen te jaarut ci loi.
Were the acts happening at the NIA at that time lawful?
Li nga xam ne moo doon xew foofu ca NIA ndax ànd na ak loi?
They did. No.
No.
Why do you say that?
In State Council's introduction of this issue,
State Council,
he said these rebels' rights were enshrined in the Constitution. The Constitution. Which means they had rights. And they could have been respected.
Could have been or ought to have been?
Yes.
They ought to have been
respected. To have been respected. But were not respected.
And do you know that Yaya Jammeh died as a result of the severe beating he received at the NIA?
Ndax xam nga ne Yaya Jammeh Yaya Jammeh faatoo mu ngi sosoo ci miti dóor yu métti yi nga xam ne moom lañ ko def foofu.
May I please ask where he died? In the hospital, in mile 2 at the NIA?
And when,
after which time did he pass away?
He died in mile 2.
Mile 2 la dee.
Soon afterwards.
Can council please let me know how many days, what time, the length of time?
I don't know exactly the date, but here I have a human rights a report on, I think it's by Amnesty International.
Xawma bés bi nag waaye am na xibaar goo xam ne bàyyeekoo na ci amee ak yelleefi doomu aadama yaakaar naa mbootaay
of 2nd December 1997.
ñu ngi ko bindoon ñaari fan December 1997.
And it's entitled
te liñ ci wax mooy
The Gambia Democratic Reforms Without Human Rights.
wécceeku ci wàllu doxin démocratie te àndalewuñ ko ak yelleefi doomu aadama.
And I'm looking on page 4 of the report. It talks about human rights violations since the elections. And in paragraph 3 of the report, it says in May 1997, one person died in custody, apparently as a result of torture. Yaya Jammeh had been held at Banjul's Mile 2 prison since an attack by armed men on the Gambia's second largest military camp at Farafenye, some 100 kilometers east of Banjul, in November 1996.
conga boo xam ne defoon nañ ko ci ñaareeli béréb boo xam ne dëkk bu màggala ci Gambia mu xewoon ci atum 19.
He was under constant medical care when he died in May.
moom nag ci loon faj goo xam ne moom lañ ko doon faj bu tar boo xam ne ñu ngi ko doon fajee jamono bi moo faatu.
So he died a few months thereafter.
dafa mel ni ay weer yu néew daal gannaaw ci la gaañu.
Are you aware of this?
yëg nga loolu.
I heard about one of them who died. I don't know who it was.
dégg naa kenn ci ñoom ne dee na waaye xamatu woon kan la.
Would you say that the torturers are responsible for manslaughter?
ndax di nga mën a wax ne ñi nga xam ne ñoo doon def mitital yooyu ñoom ñoo waral faatu gi.
rey nañ nit.
Lead counsel, I'm not a common law lawyer.
Lead counsel, man nekkuma ab lawyer.
I have a background in law, which is non-common law.
Well, you did not ask me time just in the blue. You asked me about the time frame within which the person died, because you are recalling from the law that you learned that for there to be a case of murder, the person has to have died within 1 year of the act that caused death.
waa li ma laaj ñoonu nag ne ban waxtu diggante mitital gi ak ba moo dee diir bi ñaata la toll laajuloo ma ko rek sa xalaati bopp danga ma ko laaj ndig xam nga ne luwaa bi balaa nangu ne loolu mooy sabab bi na nekk ne borom dafa war a faatu ci diiri benn at bi loolu tax
su ko defee ñu mun a wax ne daf ko rey ci anam bu ñuy ooyee mooda mooy nga faat nit ki fekk nga bugg a koo faatu nga bugg a jël bakkanam.
Isn't lead counsel pushing it down my throat?
Lead counsel ni ko yalla ci suma
law thing.
Okay, now of course torture became a culture at the NIA. Would you agree?
Legi ay mbugal ak mitital yo xam ne ñu ko doon def lolu mom luñ aada wo daan def la rek ci NIA.
Yes, I do.
Waaw nanguna.
Why do you think that these tortures were taking place?
Lan moo tax nga foog ne mbugal ak mitital yi sax ñu ko daan def foofu.
Please come again.
Why do you think these tortures were taking place? What was the objective? What was the reason, the ratio d'etre for these tortures?
Lan moo woon jubluwaay bi tax ñu daan jël mitital yi di ko teg nit ñi foofu ca NIA.
Like I said,
comme ni ma ko waxee.
President Jammeh, he liked seeing people suffer.
Yaya Jammeh dafa nekkoon koo xam ne bu bëggoon nit ñi di torox di gis nit ñi torox.
And
Tate.
Are you suggesting he was a sadist?
I'm coming. He enjoyed seeing people suffer.
daan bànneexu pour daan gis nit ñi di torox.
And begging him or pleading with him.
wala di ko ñaan di jégalu ci moom.
He deducted as a sign of weakness.
dafay gis ne loolu daal ak yoxam la.
And he hardly believed anybody, trusted anybody.
te du daan óolu kenn.
Even if you bring somebody to him and say, well, we've spoken to the person, yes.
Même ça soo indi ni ne ko kii wax nañoo moom.
Admitted.
mu nangu.
He would say no.
dana wax ne déedéet.
He doesn't believe.
gëmut ko.
The only way he thinks you can get the person to talk is to extract
ni nga ni yaakaar ne mooy pour nga def nit ki mu wax mooy dangay génne dëgg ci moom.
We missed something.
You would have to extract the truth from the person.
Foog nga génne dëgg ci waaj ci moom.
Extraction.
Ci forcé.
Was in place of obtaining.
Loolu nag la dal di yoon teg nag ci joxe nga jot ko ci coogareem.
Interesting choice of words, Mr. Sambou.
Ni nga tànnee sa ay kàddu Mr. Sambou.
Extraction.
Yes.
Mooy pour génnee ci moom.
Instead of obtaining,
yes.
Or abstention.
Yes.
Am ci moom.
Yes.
In your statement,
ci kàddu yi nga xam ne moom nga binda.
You described it in other language.
Dang ko wax ci beneen anam làkka.
They extorted confessions out of people instead of obtaining confessions.
That is true. Let me please let's replace the extraction with extortion.
These are very strong words, Mr. Sambou.
Yes, because like I said, the boss did not accept. He could not accept persuasion. He thought everybody there should be a show of power. So that he was the one up there, one, and two. The person had to be, what do I say?
Maltreated,
yes.
Brutalized,
yes.
Bullied.
In order to, one, subjugate the person, two, get the person to cooperate, you know, and for you to go and face him with a file and say, sir, we have spoken to the guy, he has voluntarily written his statement, and this is, he wouldn't listen to that. In fact, he would think that you have come there to, not only to beg for the person, but maybe you know him or you are negotiating. And he would say, you want to replace him? And you would be in a funny position. So that culture, give him VIP treatment, that culture developed, metamorphosed, in order to harden not only the agents or the, but to make everybody feel once you are in there.
Strong words again. That culture
metamorphosed
and made these agents hardened. These are your words.
Yeah, are my words.
So the culture or torture became a policy of the NIA in order to secure information that Yaya Jammeh wanted from those who threatened his authority. Would you agree with that?
Dafa melni mbugal ak mitital lol aada la bo xamne rek daf daan dox NIA pour mëna jëlé ci ñoom Yaya Jammeh li nga xamne mom la soxla ci ay nit ñoo xamne dañ xeeb li nga xamne mo di ay kàddoom.
Yaya Jammeh would give personal orders.
Yaya Jammeh daf di joxe ndigali bopam.
And he would follow up on each individual case.
Ci case bu wax bu nekk.
Orders like what?
The VIP treatment.
VIP treatment.
What is VIP treatment? What
the
does it
and
mean?
The tortures.
So you're saying Yaya Jammeh would personally give these orders? Would you answer now?
Yes.
Wow.
Have you ever had personal first-hand knowledge of Yaya Jammeh ordering torture?
Yow ndax mus nga gis yow sa bopay sa walli xam-xam Yaya Jammeh di joxe ndigal yi pour ñu def ay mitital ci kaw ñoom.
I have not, but I know it has happened.
Mosuma ko fekke waye nak amna ne dana dan am.
Now let us deal with 2006.
léegi nag ñu jëm ci mbiri atum 2006.
On 20 March 2006, you are Director of Operations at the IEC.
ñaar fukki fan ci atum 2006 weeri March yaa nekkoon Director Operations ci IEC.
By 22nd March 2006, you became new Director General of the NIA.
ñaar fukki fan ak ñaar weeri March 2006 nga ñëw nekk Director General bu bees bi ci NIA.
Tell us what happened.
wax ñu lu xew.
How it happened.
naka la xewee.
I was Director of Operations at the IEC, preparing for the budget for the forthcoming elections in September.
My kilifa gi saytu lu jëm ci wàlli doxalini Independent Electoral Commission di muntu liggéeykaay bi saytu mbiri atte bi di waajal nag lu jëm ci njëliñ dog ci mbiri wote bi dégmal si.
And I got a telephone call from State House to go and answer.
Ma am telephone call bu jógee ko ca State House ne ma dem uyu ji.
So I went.
Ma dem.
And was summoned to the Secretary General's office.
Ñu daldi ma yóbbu na ci office Secretary General bi.
At the time it was Momodou Hydara.
Time boobu Momodou Hydara la.
And he sat me down and said, wait for me.
Mu tooga mu teg ma mu ne ma xaar ma.
Came in and out and said, come.
Mu dugga ga génn fe bu jegi mu ne ma kaay ma dugga ci office am.
That I have orders for you.
Ci la ma wax ne am naa ndigal ci pour yow.
Orders, he said, yes. I said, what orders?
Ndigal bu mel naka.
Said, HE has instructed that you go and take over.
Mu ne His Excellency President bi joxe na ndigal nga dem jël NIA. Ma ne ko lan.
Yes, sir. Sit down and wait for your letter.
Mu ne ma tooga nga xaar sa letter bi.
So I sat.
Who was he referring to as HE?
His Excellency Yaya Jammeh. Then.
Yaya Jammeh booba.
So I sat down.
Ma toog.
After some time, my letter came.
Loolu nag suma letter bi aksi.
What did the letter say?
Letter of appointment is acting appointment.
Letter boo xam ne nii mooy ne tànn nañ ma ci maqaama mi.
Take over as acting Director General of the NIA with immediate effect.
Pour ma nekk nag di xamtu ni ci boppi NIA ci ni mu gën a gaawee.
And this would be your second coming.
Second.
Bi mooy ñaareelu yoon nga ñëw fa.
Second.
Ñaareel bi waaw.
So I went and reported to the chairman IEC. This is the letter.
Wan ko kii borom kër yi buntu liggéeykaay Independent Electoral Commission ne ko li mooy letter bi.
What do we do? I said, I don't know.
Mu ne ma léegi nag lu ñuy def ma ne ko xaw ma.
So I started.
Well, who was the Director General at the IEC at the time?
The chairman.
Kan moo nekkoon
Chairman, I meant to say.
Late Ndondi Njai.
Late Ndondi Njai, ndem si Yàlla Ndondi Njai.
So I shuttled for about 2 weeks between IEC and the NIA.
Ci diggante boobu nag maa jaabante lu dem si ñaari bés yooyu diggante IEC
until I finally resigned from the
ba mujjantal daal ma noppal suma bopp liggéey ci IEC.
And took over at the NIA.
Ma daal di jël nag NIA.
Something must have precipitated this move, your sudden appointment as Director General.
Yes.
At the NIA.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
I was informed there and then that there was an abortive coup.
And amna coup d'état boo xam ne moo doon am waay fanka nañ ko.
And the then Director General Marena was involved.
Te booba ki nga xam ne moo ko jiite woon di Marena daf ci bokkoon.
And he was removed.
Te génne nañ ko fa.
That's all.
Lola.
Were you given any particular tasks?
Any
particular directives?
Yes.
Amna ben sas buñ la waxon ne lool nga wara jaar.
Yes.
Wow.
Tell us.
Waxñu.
A panel of investigation was supposed to have been formed.
Dañ waroon sos nak genn kurel go xamne ni ay gestukat lañu.
To interview
di laajte
all those
ñi nga xamne
arrested and detained
japp nañ leen tek leen benn place
in connection with the abortive coup.
Lu aju ci coup boobu nga xamne ni dañ ko fomon.
And who were to be members of the panel?
Officers from various armed and security forces formed the panel.
Who selected the members?
I think Lang Tombong did in collaboration with the president then. Lang Tombong Tamba, then Chief of Defense Staff.
President bi nga xamne jamono bo mo jité soldat yi réew mi.
How do you know that?
Naka nga ko xamé? He came to tell me.
Momako wax.
Who told you?
Lang Tombong.
Lang Tombong.
So Lang Tombong Tamba and the president set up, basically they chose the members of the panel.
Legi Lang Tombong Tamba ak president bi ñom ñoo tan ñi nga xamne ñoo wara bokk ci kuréel kilifa yoy nonu.
Yes. Well, you are to be the head of the NIA.
Yow ya nekkon jité ki nga xamne mo jité NIA.
Was the NIA represented in the panel?
Ndax NIA amna ku len téwal ci kuréel gogu.
Wow.
Yes.
Who was the person?
Kan la won?
The Deputy Director General Momodou Hydara.
Ki topon ci ki jité NIA Momodou Hydara.
How was he selected to be in the panel?
Naka lañ tanné Momodou Hydara mom pour mu bokk ci kuréel gogu?
He was nominated by the then CDS Lang Tombong Tamba.
Ki di CDS Lang Tombong Tamba moko tannon.
As the new Director General of NIA, did you have to approve that appointment?
Comme que yow ya nekkon Director General bu bes bi ci NIA ndax tan bobu ñu ko tan yow dang ko warona nangu pour ñu tan ko ci?
No, I did not have to approve.
Dedet waruma won ko wiral wala
orders came from above.
Ndax ndigal bi mu ngi joge ko ci kaw.
What was to be the role of the NIA, or your role as Director General? What was to be your role in this investigation panel?
Ci kurel go nga xamne ñom lañ tannon pour ñu def gëstu bobu yow mi lan mo ci won sa cër?
The panel was to have been housed in the premises of the NIA.
Panel bi seen wax liggéey yépp dañ ko warona defé ci biir NIA
because there was a hall in upstairs in the main yard.
Amon na ben hall bu nekkon ci kaw.
That was like a conference room.
Bo xamne ni mu ngi melni conference room.
And it had enough space.
Amna nak place bu doy.
So he gave instructions that the proceedings take place there.
So ci la ci jox ndigal nak ne jotay bobu nak nañ ko defé ci fofu.
And of course by HE you mean
Yaya Jammeh.
Yaya Jammeh.
Who selected the various first of all, tell us the various components of that panel. You said it was to be comprised with members of various security institutions. Tell us where were they derived from?
Wax ñu kurel gogu nonu ñi nga xamne ñoo fa téwon dégg la wax nga ñu ne ñu ngi leen tanné ci ay bunti karangé ci bari ci réew mi fi waye wax ñu fan lañ leen jëlé.
It was chaired by the Deputy Director General.
Kiko jité won moy Deputy Director General bu NIA Momodou Hydara.
Policemen.
Amna ay police.
Members of the military security military intelligence.
Ñi nga xamné ni nek police soldats yi nga xamné ni ñoo nek ci buntu xerewlu ci soldat gi.
Yes.
So you'd have NIA, police and army.
Yes.
Légui am nga fa NIA am fa police am fa soldat.
But of course you also had GRTS.
Why am nga fa GRTS?
Yes, I came to find out.
Wow, ci lañ yek ne ci la ko door mujjé yek.
The evidence received by the commission is that this panel comprised of investigators, statement takers, torturers and recorders of forced confessions. Would you agree?
Xibaar giñ fi jot moy ñi nga xamne ñoo nekkon ci panel bobu moy ñi nga xamne ñoo doon def mbiri gëstu yi ñi nga xamne ñoo doon jël xibaar yi ci ñooñu di ko binda ak ñi nga xamne ñoo doon def mitital yi ak ñi nga xamne sax ñoo doon jël di ko natal.
Rightly so.
Waaw non la.
You agree that this was the arrangement?
Positive.
Wow.
We have received evidence from Alaji Martin to say that the suspects were brought in, they are questioned. If they do not answer satisfactorily, they are taken out. The junglers would beat the truth out of them, or the confessions out of them. They would be brought back before the panel. They will confess, and they would be later taken before the cameras of GRTS, record their confessions on video. Was that the system?
It's true, I heard him testifying here.
And what is your view about what he said? Would you answer now?
It's true.
Is that the reason why in your statement you said that evidence was extorted out of these witnesses, or evidence was coerced out of these witnesses and not obtained?
ndax loolu mooy wane ne li nga xam ne mooy kàddu yi seede yooyu doon wax noonu dañ leen doon forcé dugal ko ci ñoom pour mun a am kàddu yi ci ñoom waaye nekkut ne rek kàddu la yoo xam ne dañ ko jëlee noonu rek ci ñoom ñu joxe ko.
nekkut kàddu yoo xam ne ñoo ko waxal seen boppa jëlee ko seen coobare dañ leen ko forcé ba soxi ko ci ñoom dañ leen mbugal bañ wax loolu. Is that the reason why you said that in your statement?
Yes, that is the reason.
Wow, loolu moo tax ma wax ko.
Mr. Chair, one last question before we adjourn for the day. Those who appeared before the commission were tortured to give the confessionary statements that they gave.
Yes.
ñi nga xam ne ñoo feeñ ci kanami commission bi dañ leen mitital pour ñu wax kàddu yi nga xam ne moom lañ joxe foofu.
Panel, they were tortured before they gave the confessionary statements they gave to the panel.
Kanami panel bi.
Yes.
Wow, dëgg la.
Please proceed.
I have written in my statement
bind naa ci suma kàddu yi
that following the establishment of the panel and the bringing in of the detainees to question them,
toftal sos ak panel boobu noonu ak di indi ñi nga xam ne ni ñoom lañ tuumaal.
Initially, it used to be during the day.
ca njëlbeen dañ ko doon def ci bés bi.
And seemingly everything went well during the day.
ci jamono boobu nag lépp daf daan jaar rek yoon ci jamono bés bi.
During working hours.
ci jamono liggéey.
But after working hours, I would go home.
waaye nag gannaaw liggéey dama dee ñibbi juróom-ñaari waxtu yi.
Apparently,
ci gannaaw loolu.
detainees were brought in late in the night.
ñu leen daan indi guddi.
By the junglers.
di junglers yi.
Some in civilian clothes.
ñenn ñi nag ñuy sol civilian clothes yére civil.
Some in their uniform.
ñenn ñi di sol uniform.
I heard some of them were black. That's when I found out who they are.
ñuul kukk lañ daan sol. loolu laa dégg.
And they were maltreated and tortured in the premises of the NIA.
toroxal métital leen ci place NIA bi foofu.
Up to early morning hours.
ba ci jamonoy suba.
And taken back to mile 2.
ñu dal di leen yóbbuwaat mile 2.
I would only know.
fi ma koy xamee rek.
When I came in the morning.
mooy su ma ñëwee si suba gi.
And the security guards will tell me.
ñi garde ci bunta bi ñu wax ma ko.
The first 2-3 occasions.
ñaar ñetti jotaay yooyu.
I was to give briefings to HE, His Excellency.
waxal nag His Excellency.
And I told him.
te ma wax ko.
I heard some detainees are being beaten.
te dégg naa ne am na ñoo xam ne ñi jàpp ni dañ leen di dóor.
He giggled.
dafa yëngal bopp bi.
Mure.
He giggled.
Mure.
I just looked at him. He said,
"Ko mune."
"Oh, tell them to cooperate."
Kon wax len ñu nangu.
Were you being ordered to torture people to confess?
I didn't implement that order.
The question is, Mr. Sambou, were you at that stage being ordered to torture these detainees to confess?
The
inference was that I didn't implement that order. I just went back to my office.
We would come to all that tomorrow. Thank you very much.